the final tonight. And the best team in baseball wins it all in 2018.
For the first hit. Rutschman into right field. Down the line. A fair ball. Adley will turn first. Head for second. He's going to turn second. Go for third. Rutschman into third base standing. An extra base hit. His first hit in the major leagues. Welcome to the...
Those are long pitch innings, I think. Blister, that's what you wanted to make sure.
Here's a high fly ball into right. Back is Betts on the move. On the track. He's got catch by Mookie Betts.
Now, Clifford looking for a clean inning here in the seventh.
Hit well out to right center field. Jones still on the move, running out of room, and he makes it.
Back to another episode. As always, I'm your host, Patrick Moran, alongside Brent Cunningham. Today, we got a more fun topic today. We decided to do a little crossover between sports. We decided to compare NFL quarterbacks to MLB players. So we have 24 quarterbacks here total. We have it split up. I have 12. He has 12, even though we made the list together. We'll explain them. And then, that's pretty much it. That's all we got for this episode. This is more of a fun idea, crossing over our two favorite sports. But first of all, how are you doing today, Brendan?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, is that it?
I think it's a fun one to do.
Yeah.
NFL kind of getting on the way. How to incorporate it.
Yeah.
We didn't get all of the quarterbacks, but we think we got the best ones.
Yeah, we got the most important ones out of all of them. So,
Should be good.
yeah. I think without further ado, let's get started. I'll get us started off because I think we have our lists in the same order, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, so I have the first two. We compared Josh Allen to Bryce Harper. Obviously, these two have been around for a good bit in their respective leagues, and both have been knocking on the door of their postseason. Obviously, Josh Allen's made some postseason appearances, and so has Harper, both with the Nationals and the Phillies. But both just can't quite get it done, unfortunately, and both, I'm sure, really want that ring. I know Harper wants it, and he's in a good position this year to do so. I don't know about Allen, but that's what we got. And then we got Shohei Ohtani as Lamar Jackson. That one is because they're both dual threats. Shohei Ohtani can pitch and hit, while Lamar can run and throw. So, and both have won multiple MVPs in their careers, I believe, right? Yeah,
I think they both have two.
they both have two MVPs as dual threats. Or, two-way guys. So that...
Ohtani will have three very soon.
Ohtani... Well, you can't count out Lindor, no?
I will.
Okay. Well, that's...
50-50, man. It's 50-50 club.
Sorry, Mets fans, if you're listening to this. He's not on the Lindor hype train here. But yeah, Ohtani Lamar can do two things in one player, which, is always exciting. That's what gets people drawn in. So those were our first two comparisons.
And for the next one is mine. This is the Patrick Mahomes comparison. We went with Aaron Judge. Championships only line up. Patrick Mahomes has three of them, and Aaron Judge has yet to win one. We kind of went with just the dominance of the game and how Patrick Mahomes pretty much he dominates the league, and so is Aaron Judge. Both of them are the best, I'd say top two and the best of their sport. So That's just kind of what with here. Just even though the rings don't match up, it's the talent that's there.
Absolutely. You're totally right on that. I have the next one, and then you're gonna have the next three. Um, so we made the comparison between Paul Skeens and C.J. Stroud. Obviously, these two were top two picks in their draft very recently, and both were able to immediately come up and immediately make an impact. Their teams. Obviously, Stroud was able to get his team to the playoffs. Paul Skeens, unfortunately, will not be doing that with the Pirates, but he made them competitive, which is kind of close enough. He made it. He made the Pirates better for sure, and he kind of brought the Pirates into the playoff picture a little bit. Just didn't quite get. They didn't quite catch some true fire in Pittsburgh, but those two kind of saw the immediate success translate, which doesn't always happen in MLB and NFL.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty easy one there.
Yeah.
Now for the next one, the next three. Yeah. So
Yep.
next one we have Mike Trout, Aaron Rodgers. Another one. These are kind of two older players. Aaron Rodgers injured last year, so did Mike Trout. They're still good. They're not the kind of the game they used to be. They won some MVPs in the years, but they're not as good as they were. Aaron Rodgers is on a more competitive team than Mike Trout. But I thought this was pretty good. They're at their peak. They were best player. They were talking the best player in the game. So I think that was a good one there. And then next one I have Julio Rodriguez, Trevor Lawrence. These were two players with a lot of hype coming up. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, number one pick. He was supposed to be this dude. He's been okay. He hasn't kind of lived up to the hype we thought he was going to be. Julio Rodriguez also kind of saying this year he's not as good as he was. That rookie year was amazing. But other than that, he's been okay, kind of like Trevor Lawrence. It's not been a disaster. It's just not been as good. And then they also both led their team to the playoffs. Pretty cool, both of them. And then for my next one, I had Pete Alonso to Dak Prescott. When we were going for these, it was kind of high expectations. I mean, for the Cowboys, you kind of hear a lot. Super Bowl championship. It's going to happen this year, and they never get it done. And so Dak Prescott has a lot of expectations, and he's good. And I think I'm kind of same with Pete Alonso. He's got a lot of expectations. Mets also had some expectations in years past with the teams he created. Maybe not this year, but they definitely had some championship aspirations. So
both were in the New York media market.
Yeah,
or no,
yeah, that's
never mind, not Dak.
no. They were big media.
Big media. That's the point. Big media markets.
But yeah, big expectations. Don't really live up to it year after year, but still, next year they're gonna have their expectations.
There's always next year.
Yeah.
All right. So I have the next one, and then you got one, and then I'll have two. We compared O'Neal Cruz to Anthony Richardson. This was more so my idea. I will take credit, and you can take credit for whichever ones were more so your idea. These two are kind of, players with tools out the wazoo, as kind of the old phrase goes. As these two are tooled up beyond belief. O'Neal Cruz got a lot of hype. He can do some crazy things. He can hit a ball 100 miles an hour or 120 miles an hour. He can throw a ball like what feels like 100 miles an hour across the diamond. Anthony Richardson, he's got the run game. He's just a really talented quarterback. But these two have also had some injury problems, which is partially because of the mobility. O'Neal Cruz, bigger guy for sure, very lanky, and then Richardson, with the run game, there's a lot of risk of getting hurt with that. So I thought this was a pretty good comparison of O'Neal Cruz and Anthony Richardson. Just if you give them time and you give them, just a healthy slate, these two I think can see a lot of success.
Yeah, it's definitely a good one. I think if you want to know who did what, it's just kind of what we which ones we're saying. That's kind of how we decided who gets what.
Yeah.
So for the next one, we have Zach Wheeler and Jalen Hurts. outside these guys, both playing for Philly, these two guys that kind of been knocking on the door a couple years. They've made it to the championship. They lost. They're really close. They've been pretty dominant in their years, but they just can't quite get it done. They get that ring, even though year after year they're always in talk. And, maybe maybe things will change this year, but for the time being, they're still searching for that ring. Still playing at a very high level.
Yeah. All right, I got the next two. These are two Orioles adjacent ones. First one, we came to a pretty wild conclusion that Adley Rutschman and Joe Burrow are very similar. Both were number one overall picks, within a year of each other, a year apart. Both won a championship. Adley Rutschman, College World Series champion, and Joe Burrow, a national champion with LSU, and Adley Rutschman won with Oregon State. Both won, top player in college. Adley Rutschman, Golden Spikes. Joe Burrow, Heisman winner. And they go on to get picked number one overall. Both of these guys, it's kind of another pairing with a lot of expectations to kind of do it and lead the franchise, be a cornerstone type player. So yeah, it'll be interesting. And these two also kind of feels like the story is still yet to be written. There's quite a bit of time on these guys' side. So, I mean, you could clearly tell they're still very good, but they got to take that next step, and I think that next step is coming for both of them. And then we have Christian Walker and Jordan Love. Jordan Love, obviously, sitting behind Aaron Rodgers for, I believe, 3 years, and then he gets a chance to start when they trade Rodgers to the Jets. And Jordan Love does really well. We saw that last year. Now he's like one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. But that's more so NFL money. And then we have Christian Walker, who, when he was an Orioles prospect, he was a pretty decent prospect. But he was behind Chris Davis in the pecking order, which didn't help his case. So he goes to Arizona, and then he's behind Paul Goldschmidt in the pecking order. So he's behind two better players. And then Paul Goldschmidt gets traded to the Cardinals, and Christian Walker gets that opportunity. So then he just starts to play every day, and he plays really well. And he's been a great first baseman for the Diamondbacks. Was a big part of their World Series run. He had a great postseason, and Jordan Love and Christian Walker are just two very solid players. So I thought that was another good comparison.
That's a good one. The next one, we had Tua. So you can kind of figure where we're going with Tua. It's the injuries, and so we had to think of a guy that's always getting injured. The perfect one was kind of Byron Buxton. This guy, both of them are really super talented if you think about it, but they just can never get a full season in. And the teams are right on the cusp of making the playoffs and maybe having a run in it. But they just can't stay healthy. Maybe Tua a little more, but he just has concussions all the time. So, and Buxton's made of glass. So, two talented players that just kind of get injured all the time, which sucks for both these teams.
Yeah. I got the next one. Christopher Sanchez, we kind of compared to Brock Purdy. I think Christopher Sanchez is a little bit more talent than Purdy, because Christopher Sanchez is still a good pitcher, but these are two guys that are kind of benefiting from their environments. You think about Brock Purdy, he has all these tools around him. He has a Brandon Ayuk and Debo Samuel at wide receiver. He has a George Kittle at tight end. He has a Christian McCaffrey, at running back. Those are all great weapons to have as a quarterback. And he kind of he's kind of labeled as a system quarterback. And then you have Christopher Sanchez, who may not be, a system player per se, but you think about like how he has Wheeler, Nola, Ranger Suarez ahead of him in the rotation. And, it's a great bullpen as well, which can really help him out. He's kind of just a really solid 4-starter. So, while I think Sanchez has more talent as an individual player than Purdy, these are two guys where they're in very good environments to succeed, considering the talent around them.
Yeah, Brock Purdy's definitely a tough one now. He's a kind of anomaly. For the next one, we had Jared. Oh, this was yours.
I thought this one was the Chris Bryant one.
Oh, ours a little switched up here. My bad. I have it's Daniel Jones and Chris Bryant. So for this one, we were kind of thinking big contracts on a guy that maybe didn't deserve it. That was kind of Chris Bryant, Daniel Jones. He's not playing great right now, but you got that bag, so you don't have to worry about it. Same goes Chris Bryant. Even though Chris Bryant had a lot more success when he was younger, he got that MVP, got a World Championship. He kind of deserved it more, but it was still a reach at the time. But and then Daniel Jones he had one good year, and then he got this big contract. And they're also both injured a lot. And Daniel Jones was injured like most of last year, and then Chris Bryant is injured all the time. And they're also on bad teams. So keep that in mind. That's a big thing about them too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot in common they have here.
Yep.
Yeah. You can go.
All right. I have the next one. We compared Andrew Benintendi to Russell Wilson. Obviously, these two had a ton of promise as young players. Russell Wilson had more success than Benintendi did early in his career. But they get a big contract, and then they just start sucking. And you can't really blame it on injuries if you're either of them. Because neither have been hurt per se. They they just haven't been good in the times that they played. So that's what makes it really interesting. But yeah, that's kind of what happened to both of them. Russell Wilson at this point still getting extra life here with the Steelers. Benintendi is probably not going to get that after his time in Chicago. I mean, you can't move Benintendi's contract, but these are two players that just kind of disappointed for no reason. I would say, you can't pinpoint an injury, can't pinpoint a bad environment to develop. They both just the talent. Like, where did the talent go?
Yeah. Okay. For the next one, I have Matthew Stafford and Freddie Freeman. These are two kind of guys that are over their longer careers or older, and they've had over the career been very consistently good. Freddie Freeman had the MVP, and Matt Stafford had a lot of good years in Detroit, and now even LA, he's playing good. Same goes for Freeman, also in LA. And then also they both had those rings, even though Freddie Freeman did get it before he switched teams, and Matt Stafford got it after. It's still they both got their rings, and also there's kind of no hate towards both of them.
Yeah,
everyone kind of likes Freddie Freeman. Matt Stafford maybe a little more neutral, but they're both not a lot of hate towards and consistently good.
Yeah.
And then
You have
for the next one, yeah, I have Dansby Swanson and Kirk Cousins. This is another kind of contract one, but maybe not so much as a reach. Kurt is, and we thought about teams trying to make a push for the playoffs. And that's what kind of the Falcons were doing with Kirk Cousins. We don't know what's going to happen yet. They might make the playoffs. We know the Cubs aren't. But that was just kind of what we thought here. It's a little more deserved, a little bit, not as much as a reach, but maybe they're a little less. Danny Swanson was coming off a career year, maybe makes a little sense, but it was mostly about the team trying to make that push to the playoffs, so they spend the money and get this guy. They can make it. The Cubs didn't, but maybe the Falcons will.
Yeah. The next one on our list, we had this is again more my comparison. Michael Kopech to Jared Goff. You think about Jared Goff and how he was a number one overall pick, and disappoints in LA. He's an LA Ram, and then gets in a trade, and it's mutually beneficial because you talked about with Stafford how Stafford succeeded in Detroit and Goff has succeeded in Goff has succeeded in Detroit and Stafford has succeeded in LA. And Kopech not quite the prospect that Goff was. But Kopech still had a lot of prospect pedigree. in the Chris Sale deal. And, Kopech doesn't quite work out in Chicago. He just kind of sucks. I mean, that's part of it is because of the environment. White Sox are terrible. But he goes to LA, and he's been lights out since that trade happened at this year's trade deadline. He's been utterly fantastic. It seems like the Dodgers have fixed him, which is, just great to see. You love to see those reclamation projects and kind of those feel-good stories. But these are two guys that have really benefited from going to a positive environment, and that's why we saw the parallels between them.
Okay, yeah. For the next one, we had Anthony Volpe to Kyler Murray. These are two guys, had a lot of hype. I mean, people call Volpe the next Jeter, which is outrageous. That was not a good claim. And I know Kyler Murray had a lot of hype. I think he was like in high school, he was like the best player in Texas, and then he was number one pick. So he was supposed to be something good. And they've been okay. They haven't been what they were supposed to be, but they've been getting the job done at least for the time being. And teams are playing well. So there's nothing really to say, but that's just kind of a little weaker one on this one. But yeah, I think it's a good one.
Yeah. Next up, I have the next two. I compared Justin Fields to Victor Robles, because Justin Fields was a top 10 pick in the 2020 draft, and it didn't quite work in Chicago, and he just kind of gets given away for free to Pittsburgh, and now he's 3-0. As of today, Steelers did win, so props to Justin Fields. I don't remember who they beat. I'll pull that up. But Justin Fields, as of right now, it seems like it's working in Pittsburgh. And while I don't like Pittsburgh, I am happy for Justin Fields that he is finding a spot to succeed. So, and then Victor Robles, another top prospect. He got a World Series ring with the Nationals back in 2019, and then it just kind of goes down from there, which is too bad. And the Nationals cut him loose, and it seems like a really sad story. And then the Mariners pick him up, who need some offense. I didn't think about this. Mariners needed offense, and Steelers needed a quarterback. But yeah, Mariners need offense, and Victor Robles plugs in, and he's been amazing. He got a 2-year extension. He got $9 million, which is great. And it just seems like it's been a really good fit. So, those are two guys with some really good tools, and they can still be really good in their respective games. So yeah, that's why we made the comparison there. And then we have another one that I more so made. Bryce Young for Henry Davis. Bryce Young is obviously, former number 1 overall pick, and it just hasn't worked in Carolina. And then Henry Davis, number 1 overall pick by the Pirates, and it hasn't quite worked in Pittsburgh. I think for Bryce Young, it's kind of more so on the team. I mean, there's no team around Bryce Young, and he's got benched recently, so there's that skate to take into consideration. I actually saw a report today that teams have reached out in talks for trading for Bryce Young, which is really interesting. And then Henry Davis, he looked to be this great piece for the Pirates. It just hasn't worked out, and the development hasn't quite gotten there. So these two really the whole point is former number 1 overall picks. Looks like they would be huge pieces for their franchises, arguably cornerstones, and it hasn't worked that way. It's kind of gone south. So
yeah. For the next one, I have Brian Bale, Jane Daniels. We had to get Red Sox in there somewhere, even though the intending form Red Sox, but we had an Oriole. I had to get Red Sox, so we had Brian Bale, Jane Daniels.
We have two
even
Orioles
though
on this list.
What's that?
I said we have two Orioles on this list.
That's right. Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
But for Brian Bale, even though he wasn't number 2 overall pick, he's still shown promise as a young player. Jane Daniels too, and kind of key pieces. What you just talked about, Bryce Young and Henry Davis, were trying to be. these guys kind of have established. The story of Jane Daniels. They've kind of shown that they are going to be part of the future, hopefully, and a key piece for these teams. I'm glad we got a Red Sox in there. We think about other players like maybe Jaron Duran. And it was kind of too late for Rafael Devers. All the good players were gone. But I think Brian Daniels was a good fit.
Yeah. And then what else do we have? We have Baker Mayfield and Ryan O'Hearn.
I was agreeing, yeah.
Oh. So yeah, we compared Baker Mayfield to Ryan O'Hearn. Both were kind of an irrelevancy. Baker Mayfield was horrible with the Panthers, and then Ryan O'Hearn, after kind of a promising start with the Royals, kind of just fizzled. And then they both moved spots. Baker Mayfield goes to Tampa, Ryan O'Hearn goes to Baltimore, and they both just look comfortable in their new situations. Mayfield's put in a nice position to succeed. So is Ryan O'Hearn being on the bulk end of a platoon. The Orioles indeed what made Ryan O'Hearn a good player at one point. So, these two are in a really good spot now on some very solid teams. And, after what might have been a downturn for their careers after not being great, they've both been on the upswing and both look like, really solid players in their sports.
Okay, now for I think it's the final one. We have Caleb Williams and Dylan Cruz.
Yep.
We were trying to think of one for Caleb Williams for pretty much the entire time. He's a big player, number one pick this past draft. And Dylan Cruz, not number one pick, but number two is close enough. For this, we just kind of went a lot of talent, very marketable player. Both of these guys are. Maybe Caleb Williams a little more. But a lot of talent, a lot of potential. These guys, they haven't really shown a lot so far, but they've shown enough where we think they're going to be good. So that's just kind of one here. We thought about other players, Caleb Williams, but I just kind of made sense. We thought about Paul Skeens, number one pick, but Paul Skeens has been electric. He's been fine, but that's what we kind of went. That's our final one.
That is our final one. So that'll pretty much do it for this episode, right? We'll do playoff predictions after, the whole field is set. Kind of did it too late for, regular season predictions because some teams have already clinched. So we decided to save that when the postseason rolls around. But yeah, we thought it'd be fun to just do a crossover sports. We're both big football fans aside from baseball. So we wrote down a lot of quarterbacks. I'm sorry if we didn't include your quarterback if you're an NFL fan listening to this podcast, but we kind of included the most important ones. Huh?
Didn't include mine.
Oh, you're right. We didn't. You know what? We kind of didn't include some of the rookies just because we don't really know what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
So, except for Caleb, because Caleb's like,
And Daniels.
Because there were MLB comps that fit. I don't know if there's a comp that fits for Drake May, but that'll pretty much be it for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. Postseason's right around the corner. It's hard to believe the baseball season is coming to a close. It's going to be postseason ball. Orioles are looking to clinch a postseason spot pretty soon. I think they're definitely going to make it. And then Red Sox, unfortunately, not looking too good up in Boston. So, any comments on that?
Devers just went down for the year. I don't think we're.
Devers is out for the year. Hopefully, the MRI comes back with positive news.
Yeah,
because I heard they were going to do an MRI. So, yeah,
it's tough.
Yeah, you know what? You guys hung around. I'll give you credit for that.
We put up a fight.
You made it interesting.
I don't think we were ever there. I wasn't changing. Were we ever in the wild card?
I don't believe so.
We were on the cusp, though. We were just outside. We never get past the Twins. That was it for us.
Yeah.
But it was a good fight. A lot of people counted us out, and we had a good year.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, you guys have a lot of good prospects that are coming up. So, you know, I think there's a step forward for Boston in there. So, but yeah, that'll conclude our show today. And yeah, with that, we'll see you next time.